Namaskar. Today being the auspicious day of Guru Purnima, I thought I would share with all of you the wonderful journey I've had in the field of arts and all that my great gurus contributed to me and to my journey in the arts. My journey in classical dance actually began at the age of 4, and I used to go to my neighbor's house, Srimati Kalanidhi Narai, Srimati Sunanda Devi used to live in Bangalore South where my parents lived. So I used to go and sit in her house and, learn dance. But those days it wasn't very serious learning because neither was I very serious, nor were my parents. So I'm not going to really talk about Srimati Sunanda Devi or talk about Sri Sundar Kumar, under whom I did my Ranga Pravesha on January 1st, 1977. But I'd like to start my obeisance, my homage, my tribute to my gurus, starting with Professor and Srimati U.S. Krishna Rao. Professor and Srimati U.S. Krishna Rao were the most respected and the most regarded Bharatanatyam gurus uh, of Bangalore city, of Karnataka actually, but they lived in Bangalore city. So everybody who was in the field of dance was, either their shishya had learned from them or was their colleague of the same age group. Like those days, Srimati Leela Ramanathan used to be there, and many other gurus, Srimati Shanta Rao. They were contemporaries, but and the rest of them were all one generation junior to Professor and Srimati U.S. Krishna Rao. The teacher who I used to learn from, Sri Sundar Kumar, was a student of Professor and Srimati U.S. Krishna Rao. So when I did my Ranga Pravesha under him, the Krishna Rao couple had come to watch my performance, and they liked me and they thought I had a future in dance. So they contacted my parents and said that if it's possible for them to send me to learn to their institution Mahamaya, I should be sent there. And since I was still in school, my parents hesitated, about the distance that I had to travel to go to Mahamaya school. So they kind of, you know, um, deliberate upon it, and I think about a year later, they started sending me. My father would drop me there, then I would take a bus and come back, or I would take a bus and go there, and then from there go straight to school, things like that. And within a couple of years, I joined Mount Carmel College. So it became easier because Mahamaya, Professor and Srimati U.S. Krishna Rao's dance institution, was just behind Mount Carmel College. And those days we used to join college soon after class 10. So I was barely 15 when I joined pre-university in Mount Carmel College. Going to Professor U.S. Krishna Rao and Srimati Chandrabhaga Devi ji's house was a big, big, big honor for me because one had heard so much about them, and like I said, they were the most respected gurus, in that part of the world. And when I saw them, the Krishna Rao couple, the thing about gurus is that you learn so much from them, not just the dance, not just dance is one part of it. I mean, I went to learn dance and I did learn dance, and it was one part of it. But Professor U.S. Krishna Rao was a physics professor, and Auntie, as we used to call her, Chandrabhaga Auntie, was his student. And they fell in love and they'd gotten married. They were both Konkani speaking. And they spoke English very fluently. They loved dance, so they had given up a career, as a professor of physics. He had given up a career, and she also had given up a career. And they had gone to learn from, the great guru Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai those days. And they told me much later that they were so fascinated when they saw, Ram Gopal dance, that they thought that they too should do Indian dance, and so they went to learn from Meenakshi Sundaram Pillai sir. Um, so it was basically Pandanallur, school of dance, and when they started teaching in their institution Mahamaya, it was a different experience for them. They told about how difficult it was for them initially because their family and the circle around them, nobody wanted them or expected them to give up everything for dance. So auntie used to tell us stories about poverty, about how she had two children, Shivdev and Jaidev, and how she on many days, they didn't have anything to eat in the house, and they went without food. They were looking for students, they were looking for performances, and she had to take care of her home, she had to take care of her children. She was the dancing partner of Professor Krishna Rauji, and so she had a lot to deal with. Auntie had a lot to deal with, but she was an extremely strong woman, and she was in fact the pillar of that household. And even now when I close my eyes, I can hear Professor Krishna Rao, master, saying, Chandam, Chandam, come here, just see what Pratibha is dancing, just see how she's dancing, you approve what she's doing, and things like that. And I remember it so vividly. And it was fascinating to see them. It was fascinating. They were a very fascinating couple. So what I actually thought I would do today was, apart from talking about my gurus and paying my respects to them, also tell you little interactions that one remembers with one's guru, and how important that is. It's so important because these days everyone thinks that talks about Google Guru, Yahoo Guru, or some other guru, some remote guru. They don't understand the concept of guru. When you go to a guru's house, you're not just dancing over there or learning how to dance. You're learning so many things from them. You're learning mannerisms, you're learning how they talk, how they greet people, how they treat people, and their generosity, their compassion, their passion for the art, and how they manage to straddle life in a myriad different ways, and straddle it with grace, with dignity, despite so many difficulties. When you want to be a dancer, when you have your goals set on being, dancers. So I think a lot of what I learned from master and auntie, I used to call them master and auntie, was this resolve, the inner resolve to pursue your dream. And I think that is really important, because there are a lot of obstacles in everyone's lives, and whenever I looked down and I looked a little dejected or sad, they would cheer me up, and they would give me chocolates, and then they would tell me their stories. They would tell me stories about how Jaidev, their son, had one day asked to eat an ice cream, and how they didn't have the money to buy the ice cream, and they would go pillar to post, wondering what to do now. And they said that this is the journey of the arts. They told me very clearly, you can choose to be rich, you can choose to be very rich, you can choose to earn money, you can choose to be doing many other things in your life, but if you choose to be a dancer or an artist, then you have already chosen a life of meagerness, of of moderation. You've already chosen a life of moderation. That you realize that your life may not be wealthy, as in the terms of riches, of wealth, of material wealth, and you may not have all those luxuries that the wealthy enjoy, but you have the richness of art with you. Hello Sudeep, how are you? Namaskar. Pariyapan Pillai sir, namaskar. Namaskar, Ajit Kumar. I'm happy to see you all over here. Happy Guru Purnima to all of you. And if you have any questions, do please type in, and I'd love to answer them. Thank you. So I kind of learned grace. I learned a lot of grace from Auntie, and a lot of grace from Professor U.S. Krishnarao. And I learned many items, of course. The great Manavichaya Punarada Varnam in Shankarabharanam, Sarojaksha Varnam. It was a Thana Varnam. Then Manavichaya Punarada was a Pada Varnam, of course, and many items. I learned many items because I was with them for several years. I did several performances. We used to travel together by train those days. Nobody flew. There was no flight, was too expensive. So all of us, when we went for performances, we used to pack overnighters and sit in a train together, musicians, fellow dancers, fellow students of Professor Srimati Krishnarao, and sometimes Auntie rarely accompanied us, but Master used to accompany us because Master did Natuangam most often for all our performances. So it was a different world, and in that world, what mattered was the performance, how well you did it, whether Master and Auntie approved of your performance. There was this really beautiful item called Shringara Lahari, which they had taught me in Rag Neelambari. Such a beautiful item. It described, the beauty, the magnificence, the radiance, the fabulous form, and the inner glow and the beauty of the goddess Kamakshi. So this was written by a poet called Lingaraj Aras, and these days many of those items are not even performed and they're not even spoken about. So I just want to play a little bit in the voice of my master, Professor U.S. Krishnarao. I wanted to show you, I have little recordings I have all recordings, in fact, of Professor Krishnarao and of Muthuswami Pillai and of, my Guru Kalanidhi Narayananji. But, and I wanted to play you those pieces in their own voice, not the entire piece, but a little bit of this. So this is Master, Professor U.S. Krishnarao, him doing the Natuangam for one of my performances. So that was one of the compositions of my guru, Professor U.S. Krishnarao and Srimati Chandrabala. Ananda Nakana Ganapati Bhavaye Chidakara Mooladhara Omkara Paramananda Nakana Ganapati Bhavaye. Basically, it's a worship to the dancing Ganapati, the dancing Ganesha, who is Satchidananda, the one who's happy and Shanta inside, the Mooladhara, the foundation on which everything rests, and Paramatma, the gods of the gods. So to that Ganapati I bow. Those days, dance was not complicated in the sense that one did not do 100 times, 200 times. No, they did not. The jatis were simple, the jatis were patterned, and the dance also was simple and beautiful, and it kind of extolled simplicity, I would say. I mean, I just want to use the word simplicity because it was not something that was, that somebody was trying to show how proficient and, fabulous they were technically, or their bodies were fabulous technically. It was a dance of the spirit that came from inside. So there was joy and there was beauty in that dance. Professor Master, like I said, was English speaking, and he was the one who was to mostly take the classes. And it was on a rare occasion when he felt unwell that Auntie took classes. And most often, both Master and Auntie explained the entire item to us. They always explained the item. There was a reasoning and a logic behind what one had to perform. They explained the item. They said this is how you perform, and they explained why a certain adabu was done, linear, straight, why you had to keep your body straight, and they would talk about technique, the Pandanallur school, and how in the Pandanallur school everything was linear and kind of choreographed, for want of a better word to say, in a very in a chaukat, in a very chokka. Chokka means very correct, in a very correct way. Everything was kind of presented in a very correct manner. So I learned from Master and Auntie for many years, and after I finished, while I was still in college, like I said, I used to go to both Master and Auntie, and I happened to witness a lecture demonstration of Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan in Bangalore. And Kalanidhi Auntie had come for one of the festivals, and it was a morning session, I remember, and I went to watch her. And I was about 18 years old, and I kept looking at her and I was kind of transfixed. I couldn't take my eyes off her. And when I went home, I couldn't forget her. Meaning, it was hard for me to forget her. It was hard for me to kind of get the vision of Kalanidhi Auntie dancing, performing from my eyes. So it kind of haunted me for a long time. And I went to Sri BVK Shastri, who was a very renowned dance critic at that time in Bangalore, and he used to write for Deccan Herald, and I think he also wrote not Deccan Herald, maybe I think Times of India, and for Hindu and many other papers. But he was extremely respected in the field, not only in Karnataka, but also nationally. So I went to him and I requested him to introduce me to Kalanidhi auntie, and I told him that I want to learn from her because I'm like fascinated and I have to. He said, you won't be able to go to Madras. Those days it was called Madras. How can you go to Madras and learn from her because that's where she stays and you're still attending college here, so I'm sure your parents won't allow you to. But I told him that convincing my parents was my problem, that he should, introduce me to her. I also pay my respects to Sri B.V.K. Shastri, who we lost also many, many years ago, many decades ago, in fact, because he was one of the guiding lights in my life, in my dance career. There were a lot of times when I used to be extremely agitated and uncertain about what to do next. So I would go to, BBK uncle, I used to call him again. So BBK uncle and to SN Chandrasekhar, who we used to call Chandru, for guidance. There was a lot of guidance available those days because all these senior people in the arts, they had true value for the arts. They had given up a lot in their lives to write about the arts, to speak about the arts, to do other things aligned with the arts field. Like not just, I mean, we're not performers, of course. Though, Chandrasekhar, S.N. Chandrasekhar, Chandru, had learned from Sohan Lal, Kathak, and he used to, I believe, perform Kathak until he had an accident and he couldn't perform anymore. But from the time that I saw him, he was a critic, so I've never seen him as a performer. And so there was a lot of what do I say, respect for the arts, regard for the arts, regard for arts and artists, and a sense of wanting to nurture a new generation of dancers and musicians those days, which I don't find these days because I mean there is no nurturing. I mean, a kind of a nurturing atmosphere now that we used to have those days. Anyway, so I went to him and he introduced me to Kalanidhi auntie and told her that I should, that I would go to Chennai and learn. And auntie accepted. So every Friday night, I would take the Madras mail and go to Chennai. And Saturday and Sunday, I would stay with her in her house and learn, watch her teach others. In addition to teaching me, she would take about 2 hours class for me, 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour in the evening. And so apart from the 4 hours of class I had with her over the weekend, I would also had the privilege, the greatest privilege, I'll say, of watching her teach many of her other, students, many of her other disciples. And her approach to dance was very, very different. The first time I went, I was terrified because, she said, sit down. And I said, I sat in front of her and did namaste to her and like touched her feet, did namaste, and I sat in front of her. And she said, okay, do an item. So I did. I was horrified. I looked at her and said, what would you want me to do? And then she said, anything that you know, I mean, any item. So those days, every Abhinaya item also used to have Nritta. So whatever I had been taught by the Krishna Rao couple, by master and auntie, was not just Abhinaya, not just plain sitting down and emoting, or just plain standing and doing a Naika Naiki bhava kind of a song or anything like that. So there used to be regular songs like Purandaradasa Kirtana or Shringara Lahari. All this would come under Abhinaya because they were all performed second half of the performance. The first half comprised Todaya Mangalam, then there used to be an Alaripu, Jatiswaram, Shabdam, Varnam, an interval, so costume change. So after about 15 minutes, we would come back and we would do, Adidano Ranga, Adida Aha Shankara, Shringara Lahari, and then, do Chandra Charchita, an Ashtapadi, or the Dashavatara in the Gita Govinda, or those kinds of items, 2, 3 of them. And sometimes we did some something from Antapura Geetagalu, look like Kannada songs because most of them those days I used to perform in Karnataka a lot, and we had a Kannada audience, and then of course the popular Krishnani Begane Baro and Jagadodarana, and then do a Tilana, and that was the end of it, and do a Mangalam. So when Talandi Mami asked me to do an item, I started shivering. I was like actually perspiring. I was scared, and I said, "Which one?" And she said, "Okay, do Krishnani Begane Baro." So I said, "Fine." So I got up, to do Krishnani Begane Baro, and she said, "Sit down and do Krishnani Begane Baro." I froze because I did not know what sitting down and dancing was. And it was the first ever time in my life that somebody had told me that I should sit down and dance, not stand up and dance. So I was really scared, and I said, "Auntie, I don't know how to sit down and dance." She said, "Forget that you have, you know, the lower part of your body, waist below. Just forget about it. And whatever you dance with the upper part of your body." I don't know how I did it. I did Krishnani Begane Baro. She sang for me. And after which she said, "Okay, I'll take you as a student if you promise that you will, listen to everything I say, write it down, and practice." I said, "Okay, Auntie, I'll do the best I can." So she started teaching me, and the first item that she taught me was Unnai Tu Danupine. It was Ganam Krishna Iyer's composition, if I'm not mistaken, and it was in I think Saveri Ragam, yeah. And it was about the Saki was telling her friend, "I sent you, I gave you my jewelry to make you look beautiful. I sent you with my message to my Lord Muruga. I told you take this message, go to him and tell him that I am waiting for him. But instead, what did you do? You went over there and you dallied with him. You had an affair with him. What kind of a friend are you? Go away." So that was the song, and I was fascinated. I said, "Oh my God!" So the whole concept and the construct of the song was new to me, and I said, "Okay." So I used to write down, and today I was talking to a student, and I was telling her that I diligently had notebooks where I wrote down not just the song and the meaning, the sthai bhava of the song, the naika, the placement of the naika. When I say placement of the naika, please, I don't mean just what kind of a naika is she. No, is she a madhyama? Is she pragalbha? Is she a mugdha? What is she? Is she a parakiya? What is she? So you had to place the naika, and all this whole process of learning. The stories of these women, the heroines, how they dealt with life, what they did in the relationships was fascinating. And this whole journey, of experiences, for this whole rich ocean of experiences, I thank my guru, Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan, and I pay my tributes to her and my homage to her. I'm just going to play one song, Sako Nina Sneha, which she taught me. It's a Kannada Javali, and she was, she had spent some time in Bangalore, so she could speak Kannada. So she learned the song just for me, and she said, "I want to teach this to you." It's a Khandita Naika, and the Naika is saying, "Enough of your love. I know that you went to some other woman and you dallied with her and you had an affair with her, and now you're coming to my door. No, enough. Just stop talking and go. Sako Nina Sneha. Asaki Manayalli Ananda Mariyabeda. Sako Nina Sneha." So I'm just going to play this to you because I want you to hear my guru, Kalanidhi Narayanan's voice. And for me that is important, that all of you listen to her voice.
ಆಸಕಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆನಂದ ಮರೆಯಬೇಡ ಆಸಕಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆನಂದ ಮರೆಯಬೇಡ ಆಸಕಿ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಆನಂದ ಮರೆಯಬೇಡ ಸಾಗೋ ನಿನ್ನ ಸ್ನೇಹ.
So, it was Kalamidi Auntie's voice, and I wanted you all to listen to it because, she was a wonderful musician also. She had learned music, and for many, many years, she hadn't danced. She was from a Brahmin family, and so she had learned dance when she was young, and then she gave up dance. And after she got married, she had to give up dance. Uncle was strict, Narayan uncle, and she had three sons. And many, many, many years, later, YG Doraswamy, uncle, I believe, told her that she must start teaching. And I believe her first student was Alar Melwalli. And then many others started going to her. So a lot of her students are very well known. And a lot of them, even today, teach padams and javalis and kirtanas and many many items that they learn from Kalangi auntie. So I mean, she was iconic. She was one of a kind, and I can never ever ever forget her because she was my second mother. She looked after me. She was my second mother. I lived in Chennai, in Madras. Like I said, there were so many days when I used to like go through so many emotions, and I used to tell her, and she would take me to the beach. She would take me to like Ganesha temple near Besant Nagar, and then to Adyar beach, and and tell me that don't worry, one day you'll be a famous dancer. Don't worry, one day you'll also get a chance to dance. And she kept my hopes up, and it was so wonderful. And uh, when I got my Padma Award, I went to Chennai because I wanted her to know. I wanted to tell her myself that I got it. And she was by which time, I must tell you, I had lost Professor Krishna Rao, I had lost Auntie Chandrabhaga Devi. She passed away before, Sir passed away. And my guru Muthuswami Pillai had passed away. Then, like I said, BVK uncle had passed away. SN Chandrasekhar had passed away. My own mother had passed away many many years earlier, and my father had passed away. So all who had seen me dance, in my youth, in my young age, had passed away, and the only person who was alive was Kalanidhi auntie when I got my Padma Award. So I went to Chennai, 25th evening, actually 25th January evening. I had booked my ticket. I had another performance also. So I had already booked my ticket, and I started getting calls when I was in the airport, that I had got this award. Anyway, when I next day morning, 26th of January, after my performance, it was a morning show, a tribute to the great Mridangist, Ramdas, who used to accompany for me for almost 10 to 12 years. So he too had passed away. So in a lot of sadness, I went to Kalanidhi auntie's house. I wanted to tell her, and then I learned that she was in the hospital. And they told me the hospital. So I went to the hospital, and she was in the ICU. And when I reached the ICU, there was nobody there. And the nurse was very kind. She said, you can go inside and see her. So I went inside. I sat on her bedside for about I think half an hour. She had the ventilator on her, so I don't know whether she heard me. I don't know. But I spoke to her. I spoke to her, I told her everything about my life, what had happened. I spoke to her about this award that came to me, albeit delayed, belatedly, came late. And I spoke to her about so many things, and even today, I remember her, and the next thing, 1 month later, she was gone. So she was such an intrinsic part of my dance journey. And when I say dance journey, it's not just dance journey. Like I said, she was my guru because I spent time in her house. I lived with her on many occasions. Not just when I went to learn dance. After my college, I used to go and stay in Chennai for 15 days a month, and 15 days I would be traveling performing. So almost 15 days a month I spent in Chennai in her house, for what, 10, 15 years, I don't know, maybe more. So I learned a lot from her, a lot from her, and I'm deeply grateful for all that she gave me, and I pay my homage and my tribute to Guru Srimati Kalanidhi Narayanan. From Kalanidhi Narayanan, I think sometimes you wonder whether it's destiny that you move from one guru to another guru. That the path. Guru actually means a person who wipes away darkness from you, from your mind. Guru, the one who wipes away darkness from your mind. So Kalanidhi Narayanan auntie had taken me to watch Guru Muthuswami Pillai's demonstration in Music Academy. And when I saw him again, I had that demonstration had the same impact on me. I was completely engrossed in the dance because the dance looked so different from anything I'd ever seen in my life. So she told Muthuswami Pillai sir that he should teach me. That I was from Bangalore, I didn't know Tamil, and that he didn't have any Indian students. So she said, why don't you make her your Indian student? He only had French students. So anyway, so I started learning from Muthuswami Pillai sir, and the first item he taught me was a Mallari in Rag Gambhira Natai, Khanda Tripuratala. And after which he taught me, Vachaspati Varnam. So I'm just going to, again, like I said, I learned many Varnams, many, Mallaris, many Tilanas from him, but the one I'm playing you is the one that he's doing Lattuangam for me for a performance that I had. And this is a recording, it's a very old recording, but then it is master's voice. It's not anybody who's, he used to actually compose the jatis. He used to, not only compose the jatis, he would also set the music. He was a great musician. And Madurai Sethuraman sir used to sing for me those days. And Madurai Sethuraman and he were very close to each other, and they would set to music and the raga and the tada for every composition that master wanted to teach. So this particular, thing is composed by. The music composition is by Madurai T. Sethuraman sir and Guru V.S. Muthuswami Pillai, and also being performed by both of them, performed as in they were accompanying me at a performance in Chennai. Whatever he did was never, in summer. He always did that in OC, offbeat OC. So there was a certain, beauty and certain grandeur and certain majesty, and he gave his, 100% when he was singing Jati. It was like he owned it. I mean, he totally owned it, and he wanted the dancer to also come out with that kind of energy. And his choreography was so different because in those days, when all the other gurus, his contemporaries, used to choreograph straight lines. Here was master who started doing geometrical patterns, turning, twisting, jumping, sitting down, getting up, looking, I mean, the athletics of the body and what the body could do, much more than what other gurus had explored it to do. I think one of the reasons that he was able to do this was because he choreographed on French bodies, and maybe those those dancers were more athletic, their bodies were more athletic, and Guru Muthuswami Pillai never taught in groups. He always taught solo. So he always did something new for every student of his. Even the same item looked different when two of his students danced, because he'd have changed the pattern or the movement or the choreography or the turns, twists, sitting down. The Adabu, he made each and every Adabu looked so spectacular, like a flower opening, like several flowers dancing all at once. So it was completely a different way of looking at dance. And like I said, one of the possibilities could also be because he was involved in choreographing for cinema. So maybe he knew that the camera, that one had to dance to the camera, so one could not dance straight, and that it would look very flat. So a lot of, corners and rectangular geometrical patterns would enhance the beauty of the dance. Probably he was aware of it. He never spoke about it though. And Guru Muthuswami Pillai was one of the greatest living Bharatanatyam gurus of his time, one of the greatest. And he's a legendary guru who contributed a lot to the way people even viewed Bharatanatyam. Like I said, he was a mridangist, he was a vocalist, and he was also, he belonged to the great Vaidishwaram Koil Guru Parampara. So to him, my Guru V.S. Muthuswami Pillai, pay my homage and my tribute. Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.